So I like to do things a little bit differently. I don't like being stuck behind a podium. And this way I can get to all those people in the corners. So I'd like to start off by giving a very big thank you to the man who made tonight all possible and who approached me on Wednesday night after I spoke with the cops. And that is Ken, sitting right here. Ken, thank you so much. Now, not only that, but I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a few other people who came to me about a month ago asking if I wanted to get involved with the Cops for Cancer. That first person would be Jen. Jen, whereabouts are you? Anywhere? Right there at the back. Now, Jen put me in touch with another very special person, Rochelle, who is... Whereabouts is she? Over there. Thank you again, Rochelle. So now that that's out of the way, guys, I'd also like to tell you a little bit about my story. Now, I think Darren might have touched on a little bit about the fact that I am a survivor myself and that I had to go through treatment at a young age. Now, when I was 16 years old, I was in grade 11. And I was busy playing football, I was playing soccer, I was a very active young teenager. But when it came to May, things started to change. I started to get blurred vision, I started to get nausea, and I started to get pretty severe headaches. Now, going to my doctor, to a chiropractor, they all kind of preamble towards what was to come. Now, I asked the cops the other night if anyone could tell me what foreshadowing was. Not one could. Either that or they were just holding back, I don't know. But the way that I look at foreshadowing is that it talks to something that is about to come. Now, little did I know, in the following weeks, I would be diagnosed with a brain tumor. So when I was 16, in grade 11, I went to the hospital for a CT scan. However, that night, they misdiagnosed me. And over the weekend, I had what could only be described as seizures on Saturday and Sunday. Now, one thing you should know about me is I come from a large family, one of which is here with me tonight, my sister Claire. But I'm the youngest of 6 kids. A lot of support there. And my parents decided to take me back to that hospital for another CT scan where they discovered the mass in my brain. At that point, they rushed me off to Children's Hospital where I had an MRI, and the neurosurgeon who had already gone home for the evening was asked to come back and to perform a surgery. It was 5 days later, after that initial surgery, that I had my second brain surgery to remove 50% of the tumor. Following this, I was told that I had a treatment plan set up for me. Now, that treatment plan consisted of 6 rounds of chemotherapy and 30 sessions of radiation, all of which took place over the summer and into my grade 12 year. Now, thank God I was able to go to that class in my senior year, but I didn't get to play football. I didn't get to play soccer. I didn't get to do track and field. But that was okay. Because what I was introduced to, what I was welcomed into, was so much greater than any of that. That following year, after my grade 12 year, where I did graduate, where I did go to school, and where I did end up actually, funny enough, having the highest GPA that I had had my entire time in high school, and just took a pretty serious illness, I ended up going to Camp Good Times. How many of you guys here tonight know what Camp Good Times is? So, for those of you who don't know, by the sound of the name, it sounds like a pretty fun place. You know, if you have children, you may send them to camp in the summer, but this place was like none other. My very first experience there, I was mistaken to be one of the leaders and one of the actual volunteers. Well, no, I was just a 16-year-old diagnosed in Children's Hospital. And I got to meet some incredible, incredible people. You know, this is a place where kids get to go who have had chemotherapy, they've had radiation, they've had surgeries, they've had transplants, they've had transfusions. But when they go there, they just get to be kids. They don't have that extra weight that's on their shoulders. You know, I mentioned I'm the youngest of 6, but the very first time that I ever felt like I could really connect to somebody was at camp. I talked to people who had chemo. I talked to people who had radiation. I talked to people who had transfusions, had taken on Danzatron for nausea. You know, it was there that I really felt like I had a place to just be myself, to be a kid. You know, and that's that the riders are supporting, is that place and being able to send kids to Camp Good Times like myself and like so many others. Now I shared with the riders, I'd asked them how many of them had ridden 6 years ago. And the reason I did that is because when I was in grade 12, I was sitting in the gym when they rode in. And I remember thinking to myself how cool it was that these guys are getting on the bike, riding for over 800 kilometers every year to support these children. It blew me away. And I remember thinking, as soon as Jen approached me about the Cops for Cancer and the opportunity to maybe just come speak to the community champions, let alone the cops, let alone being invited here by the amazing Ken who invited me on Wednesday night, you know, I could have never dreamed of this. But it's you guys who make this possible. Now, if I have the time, I would like to share a quick story. It's about a friend of mine who really put perspective into my life. Her name was Brooke. Now, for those of you, some of you know Brooke, some of you don't, but I'd like to tell you a little story about her. So I met her through the teen group at Children's Hospital. Now, this teen group, I was the oldest. At that point I was 17, but at this particular event, I met a young woman who was older than I was. Now, to give you a bit of an image about who Brooke was and, you know, just the person she was always positive, always smiling. She had this short pixie hair and these round glasses, beautiful smile. And the type of person who could just make you drop your guard and be friendly to her. But it wasn't until an event many months later, after her and I developed a very good friendship, that there was something different. There was something off. And it wasn't until the end of that event that Brooke came up and told me she had been to the doctors that day. And things were progressing. They were getting worse. It was also that day that Brooke told me about something she called her living list. How many people know what a bucket list is? Raise your hands. All right. Now there was one cop the other night who said he doesn't have a bucket list because he's already got it all. I can't remember where it was. I can't remember who that was. But anyways, what Brooke's living list was to go to as many concerts as she could. And it was that evening that she invited me to Taylor Swift. It was amazing, I'll have you know. But that following week, I took her from Langley all the way to Deep Cove with kayaking and ended up going to the concert. And it was one of the greatest days I can honestly say in my life, getting to spend this time with Brooke outside of the teen group. But it wasn't until 2 years ago in October that I was gone down to Children's Hospital for a routine eye exam. You know, get drops in your eyes, dilated, you can't see anything for the next 6 hours, they can't drive a car, so I have to transit. But it was while I was walking down that hallway that somebody grabbed me by the shoulder and turned me around. It was Brooke's dad. The day before that day, she was about to leave the hospital, but things started to happen and she had to stay. She ended up actually in the ICU. He said, "You have to come see Brooke." So immediately after I went to my appointment, I rushed over to her room, where she was in a very small room with the lights off. She was in a hospital gown, lying in a bed. You know, she didn't have her glasses on, but she gave me a smile. Now, I won't share the same story I shared with the police officers, as this is a family affair that I shared with Brooke that night. But long story short, she kicked me out because she had to go to the washroom, and I ended up coming back in and, you know, giving her a hug and a kiss and said my goodbye. But it was that next morning, unfortunately, that Brooke passed away. Now, I share this because I was given a gift that was to come 2 weeks later at her celebration of life. Now, that gift was something her minister talked to me about, or talked to the entire people, the entire attendance about, which was something that Brooke lives by. 3 words: live your dash. Now, he explained that dash You can find it on a tombstone. Between your date of death and your date of birth, there's a line. Now I'm looking at this table. What do you think that dash was? What? Throw it out there. Some people say life, time you have.
Life.
There you go. Okay, you got it. Well, what he ended up explaining was that dash represents the present moment. Being here, being now. Not worrying about tomorrow, not worrying about yesterday, not worrying about the next treatment you have or the surgeries you had in the past, but dealing with today. That was one thing that got me through my radiation, one thing that got me through my chemotherapy. And the reason I share this story is because the very first day that I was there on Wednesday evening, I met Alex, who's sitting over there, and I told him this story. And the reason I did that is because I said, when you're on your bike, don't think about the next day. Don't think about the next hill. Don't think about whatever your buddy said to you when you were having dinner or breakfast in the morning. But worry about the hill you have, the pedal you're doing, and remember who you're doing it for. Because it's for these kids. You know, it's for the research. Now, I try my best to live my dash every day and to be present. And I've done fundraising over the last 5 years since being diagnosed. And I'm happy to say that it's been 5 years since I almost finished treatment. Thank you. And I just want to give one more huge, thank you, Ken. Thank you. I just want to give one more huge thank you to all of you for being here. But before I finish off and hand this mic back up to Darren, I want to ask you guys 6 questions. 6. Yeah, Claire, you heard it right. It's very quick, it's very easy, just shout it out. I'm not even going to point to anybody. In 2012, when I was diagnosed, what do you think the survival rate was? Shout it out. Whoa, higher than that. Higher. Higher. 90%. When I was diagnosed in 2012. Had I been diagnosed in 2002, what do you think the survival rate would have been?
40.
Lower.
20.
Lower.
12.
Terminal.
5.
What had to happen in those 10 years? Research. What do you need to do research? How do you get money?
Get on your bike and ride!
That is so true. One more question. Who do you need to do fundraising? People. You need people to do fundraising, to raise money, to do research, to raise survival rates, to save lives. I ask you these questions because every dollar counts, every donation counts, every simple act counts. Every bike and hill that you guys are going to be doing for the next 7 days, as much as you hate it, and as much as you're yelling at your captain, counts. Remember that. Because it's because of events like this that maybe 10 years from now, my friend Brooke would still be here. My friend Lindsay would still be here. My friend Scott would still be here. And I am still here because of people like you. Thank you very much.